A wedding day is supposed to be the happiest day of a person's life. It's a celebration of love, a promise of a future, and a party with friends and family. But for the people in this video, that celebration turned into a catastrophe. Their happiest day became their last. And in every single case, it started with a decision that seemed like a good idea at the time. Case 1. The dress that killed. The trash the dress trend is supposed to be a playful act of rebellion. A bride, free from the stress of the wedding, gets one last set of artistic photos while symbolically destroying her expensive gown. For one Canadian bride, the trend became terrifyingly literal. It was the afternoon of July 30th, 2016, in Quebec, Canada. Maria Pantazopoulos, 30, had been married for just over a month. She hired a photographer, Louis Pagakis, for a Trash the Dress photo shoot at the scenic Darwin Falls. Her idea was to get photos of herself in her wedding dress, partially submerged in the water near the 60-foot, 18-meter waterfall. She wanted to create a beautiful, ethereal image. The decision was to get in the water. Maria waded in, but didn't account for the sheer weight of a wedding dress once it becomes saturated. The fabric, heavy and dense, absorbed water like a sponge. As she stood on a rock for a photo, the waterlogged dress began to pull her down. She yelled to her photographer, "I'm slipping, I'm slipping, I'm slipping," before losing her balance and being dragged into the powerful current. The photographer, Louis, immediately jumped in to try and save her. But the weight of the dress was too much. It acted like an anchor, pulling Maria under the surface and into the violent, rocky waters at the base of the falls. Louis, unable to fight the current and the weight, could only watch as she was swept away. Her body was found by rescue divers several hours later. Sergeant Ronald McInnes of the local police stated that the current at that spot is notoriously dangerous. "The people who fall at that spot usually perish," he said. "It doesn't give you a chance." The groom was not present at the photo shoot. Maria had gone for the artistic photos on her own, a decision that turned a playful trend into a fatal one. The dress she wore on her happiest day became the instrument of her death. Case 2. The final boat ride. A wedding is a celebration of two people. For this couple, their celebration ended with the two most important people, the bride and the best man, dead in the water. It was the night of July 26, 2013, just 2 weeks before Lindsay Stewart, 30, was set to marry her fiancé, Brian Bond. The couple was out for a pre-wedding celebration with friends, including the best man, 30-year-old Mark Lennon. After dinner, the group of 6 boarded a 21-foot Stingray powerboat for a short ride on the Hudson River, north of Manhattan. The mood was festive, a final party before the big day. The decision was to trust the boat's operator, 35-year-old Jojo K. John. What the passengers didn't know was that John was heavily intoxicated. As he sped across the dark water, he failed to see a large, unlit construction barge anchored near the Tappan Zee Bridge. The powerboat slammed into the immovable object at high speed. The impact was catastrophic. Lindsay and Mark were thrown from the boat into the river. The groom, Brian Bond, who suffered a serious head injury, managed to call 911. When rescue crews arrived, the scene was chaos. Lindsay's body was recovered the next day. Mark's body was found 2 days later by a jet skier. Autopsies confirmed Lindsay died from drowning and severe head injuries. While Mark drowned, their deaths were officially ruled vehicular homicide. The driver, Jojo John, had a blood alcohol level 3 times the legal limit and was later sentenced for his role in the crash. In a heartbreaking twist of fate, the groom survived the crash that killed his bride-to-be and his best man. Instead of a wedding, he had to plan 2 funerals, Lindsay's mother told reporters. "She's supposed to be married 2 weeks from today. It just can't end like this." That was a tragedy caused by one person's terrible decision. But what happens when the tragedy is caused by the building itself? The next case is one of the most infamous structural failures in history. And it happened right in the middle of the dance floor. Case 3. The dance floor collapse. For most weddings, the biggest fear is that not enough people will dance. At the wedding of Karen and Asaf Dror, the problem was that too many people did. It was 10:43 p.m. on May 24, 2001, in Jerusalem, Israel. Nearly 700 guests were celebrating on the third floor of the Versailles Wedding Hall. The band was playing a popular song, and hundreds of guests packed the dance floor, jumping and celebrating with the newlyweds. It was a moment of pure joy, captured on video by the wedding photographer. Then, without warning, the floor gave way. The decision was made years earlier by the builders. The hall was constructed using the Pal-Cal method, a cheap and illegal building technique that was known to be structurally unsound. The sheer weight of the dancing guests was too much for the poorly constructed floor to handle. A large section of the dance floor collapsed, plunging dozens of people through 2 stories to the ground floor below. The scene turned from a joyous party to a mass casualty event in seconds. The video footage is horrifying. The camera shakes, and the joyful music is replaced by screams as a massive hole opens up in the middle of the celebration. 23 people were killed in the collapse, and another 356 were injured. The groom, Asaf, escaped serious injury, but his 80-year-old grandfather was among the dead. The bride, Karen, suffered severe pelvic injuries that required multiple surgeries and left her in a wheelchair for months. The disaster led to a national outcry in Israel. The engineers who designed the building and the hall's owners were all convicted and sentenced to prison. The Pal-Cal building method was banned entirely. For the Dror family, their wedding video became a key piece of evidence in one of the deadliest civilian disasters in Israel's history. The happiest day of their lives was now a permanent record of death and destruction. Case 4. The Wedding Inferno. Indoor fireworks at a wedding are always a bad idea. But in this case, it wasn't just a bad idea. It was a death sentence for over 100 guests. It was the night of September 26, 2023, in Karakosh, Iraq. Over 1,000 guests gathered at the Al-Haytham Wedding Hall to celebrate an Assyrian Christian wedding. As the bride and groom began their slow dance, the celebration was kicked off with a burst of pyrotechnics. 4 machines on the dance floor shot sparks towards the ceiling. It was meant to be a spectacular moment. The decision was to use highly flammable decorations. The entire ceiling was covered in cheap combustible panels and hanging decorations that were essentially fire hazards waiting for a spark. The moment the pyrotechnics hit the ceiling, the entire roof ignited. Video from inside shows the ceiling catching fire in less than 3 seconds. Panic erupted as flaming debris rained down on the guests. To make matters infinitely worse, the hall's manager made a fatal mistake. Thinking the fire was an electrical fault, he cut the power, plunging the entire hall into complete darkness. The only light came from the raging fire above. There were no fire extinguishers. There were no visible fire alarms. The emergency exits were either blocked or too small for the crowd to escape. The roof collapsed, trapping hundreds of people inside the inferno. At least 107 people were killed, and over 80 were severely burned. The bride and groom survived, but both lost dozens of family members. The groom's father later told reporters there wasn't a single fire extinguisher in the entire venue. The tragedy was a direct result of gross negligence, from the illegal use of indoor fireworks to the complete lack of basic safety measures. The wedding, a symbol of a new beginning, became one of the deadliest fire disasters in modern history. These disasters were caused by negligence on a massive scale, but the next death is far more personal. It involves a bride, a golf cart, and a drunk driver who turned a wedding night into a crime scene. Case 5. The Final Goodbye. For most newlyweds, the ride from the reception is the start of their new life together. For Arik Hutchinson, It was the last conversation he would ever have with his wife. It was the night of April 28, 2023, in Folly Beach, South Carolina. Samantha Miller, 34, and Eric Hutchinson, 36, had just gotten married. Still in their wedding attire, they were leaving their own reception in a golf cart, along with 2 other family members. They were happy, celebrating, and looking forward to their future. As they drove, Samantha told her new husband, "I don't want this night to ever end." The decision was made by 25-year-old Jamie Lee Komorowski. After a day of bar hopping, she got behind the wheel of her car, drunk and reckless. She was speeding at 65 miles per hour in a 25-mile-per-hour zone. Her blood alcohol level was later found to be 3 times the legal limit. She slammed her car into the back of the slow-moving golf cart, destroying it instantly. Samantha was killed on impact, still wearing her wedding dress. Arik suffered a brain injury and multiple broken bones. He woke up in the hospital asking for his wife, only to be told that she had died. His last memory of her was that final conversation on the golf cart. "She told me she didn't want the night to end." He later recounted in court, "I kissed her on the forehead, and then the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital." Jamie Komorowski was arrested at the scene. She told officers she had only had 2 drinks but was visibly intoxicated and refused a breathalyzer test. In December 2024, she pleaded guilty to felony DUI, resulting in death, and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. At the sentencing, Arik told the court, "She didn't just kill my Sam, she killed our family." The bride's last wish came true in the most tragic way imaginable. The night never ended, because for her, time stopped completely. Case 6. The Road to Ruin. Getting your guests home safely is the final responsibility of any wedding. For one Australian couple, that responsibility was placed in the hands of a man who was a danger to everyone on the road. It was 11:30 p.m. on June 11, 2023, in the Hunter Valley region of Australia. A bus carrying 35 guests was leaving a wedding reception, heading back to a hotel in the nearby town of Singleton. The driver was 58-year-old Brett Andrew Button. The guests, many of them young members of the bride and groom's local football club, were in high spirits. Then, the driver said something that sent a chill through the bus. "Fasten your seatbelts." The decision was made by Brett Button before he even started the engine. He was addicted to painkillers and had taken a large dose of tramadol, a powerful opioid that severely impaired his ability to drive. As he approached a roundabout, he was going far too fast. Moments after his strange warning to the passengers, he lost control. The bus rolled over, its roof scraping along the guardrail before it came to a stop on its side. The scene was one of absolute devastation. 10 wedding guests were killed in the crash, and another 25 were seriously injured. It was the deadliest road accident in Australia in nearly 30 years. The investigation quickly revealed Button's drug use and his reckless driving in the moments leading up to the crash. His 7-word warning was a clear sign that he knew he was driving dangerously. In September 2024, Brett Button was sentenced to 32 years in prison, with a non-parole period of 24 years. He will be eligible for parole in 2048. The judge called his actions an extraordinary devastation. For the bride and groom, their wedding day was forever tainted by the loss of 10 of their friends and family, all because they trusted a driver who should never have been behind the wheel. From a dress that became an anchor to a bus ride that became a tomb, these stories all share a common thread: a celebration of life ending in a preventable death. They serve as a brutal reminder that the most joyous occasions can turn tragic in an instant, often because of one bad decision. Whether it's a faulty building, a drunk driver, or a dangerous trend, the promise of "till death do us part" can arrive far sooner than anyone expects. Which of these stories was the worst? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to see more stories of celebrations gone wrong, Check out our other videos. Stay safe and think twice before you take that risk.